Thank you for joining me today, Joanie. I'm so excited to have you with me.
Thank you, Michelle.
First, I want to know, if we went out for breakfast in your community, where would you take me? Oh. I'd pay the bill. I'll pay the bill. You just take me there.
Let's see. Probably some nice downtown hotel that has a beautiful brunch.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Brunch and coffee.
Yes.
Some quiche or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Someday we'll do that again. I only live a few hours. For those listening in, I don't live that far from Joanie, maybe 3.5 hours to drive. So one of these days I'll just hop in my car and drive down for brunch. I'd be a long day. I could listen to an audiobook in the car on the way. That would be fun. So in your chapter in the book, Life Repurposed, you talked about being a caregiver for your best friend and how you were roommates and you were working as a registered nurse. Now that's about all I'm going to give of your story, because then everybody can read the full story in the book. But I do want you to talk about being a caregiver. And first, I want you to tell us what one of the struggles that you had in the midst of that was, even though there were aspects of caregiving that were pure joy for you.
I think my biggest struggle was, as my best friend got sicker and sicker, she could do less and less. And I was working 12-hour shifts as a nurse. And so I felt just really squeezed. And I didn't have enough time to do anything well. I didn't have enough time to be with her and take care of her. I didn't have enough time for my work. And it got to the place where I didn't even have any space for me. And there were times I would leave to run an errand and I would just go and sit on a park bench for 15 minutes just so I could breathe. And I think that's one of the hardest challenges, because I felt guilty. I felt guilty for leaving. I felt guilty for not being enough.
Yeah. And for those listening, there are so many different kinds of caregivers. Some are caregivers for a spouse, some are for a parent, and some for friends. Some might be working on for a company where they go in and do caregiving during the day. Yours was unique in that you were living in the same house as your best friend. You were roommates too. So I can imagine then that you didn't have that space. It isn't like a job where you check out and then you go home at the end of the day. So what were some of the things that you did in addition to finding the park bench that were ways that you could refresh?
She was very, very gracious, even in the middle of her pain, which was a real gift to me. And sometimes she would just say, come and sit in a room and pick out a movie to watch, and we'll watch a movie together. And that was just really relaxing because I enjoyed watching movies. And so we would watch a movie together. At one point in time, I started reading to her and we would read books together. And that was really, really fun. And I would read till my voice was hoarse. and I said, I just can't read anymore. And she says, okay, but you can't cheat. No reading ahead. So there were things like that, even in the midst of the caregiving, that were almost breaks. And so those things were real blessings.
There was something you mentioned in your story about how you came to a point of where you were having kind of a spiritual crisis and you discovered that there was something that helped you, and it was with your mental focus. What did you do?
I was very frustrated because of her pain and nothing I could do could relieve it. And I was in the living room praying, and I just felt like my prayers weren't even going through the ceiling. And I'm sure many people have felt that way. And all of a sudden, I felt like the Lord spoke to me, gratitude. And I'm like, gratitude? And I literally I was not grateful for anything. And I literally had to look around and say, God, okay, thank you for my eyes that I can see, that I have legs to walk, that I have a job, an income, a roof over my head. I literally had to look around the room to start because I was so caught in that despair and that negativity.
Did you also thank God for the hardship, or was that an even harder leap for you?
That was a harder leap for me. And at that point, I could not make that leap.
I don't know that I could either.
And to be honest, it was just the whole idea of gratitude was just a beginning step for me.
Yeah. And so now looking back, do you see it differently when you look at, looking back, do you see gratitude for things that you didn't see in that moment?
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. I am so grateful for the friendship. And as hard as things were in her sickness, I would do it again. I think I'm crazy, but I would do it again because there were so many blessings in that friendship and so many ways that God used her to minister to me and to many other people. And she was also the one who really taught me about joy and that you can have joy in the midst of pain. And and there were times I experienced that, but not like she did.
Yeah.
And that was also another opening for me of joy.
There are people like that in our lives where I just look at them like, I don't know where it comes from. That's why the Bible calls it a peace that passes understanding, because I don't understand where the joy comes from in the middle of some of the biggest struggles. And I love that we have people like that are examples, because I tend to go to the stinky attitude first. Joy comes later. Yeah. So I love that you had that example. You are a joyful person from every encounter I've had with you, Joanie. So clearly there is joy in your soul as well. Now, I know more of your story and our listeners don't, but I know that you are an ovarian cancer survivor. Yes. And you had been working as a nurse when you were caregiving for your friend. So was your ovarian cancer after that?
Yes, it was 3 years later.
Okay. So then you had your own journey, your own health crisis to walk through. What did you learn from being a caregiver that you brought into your own health crisis?
I think one of the biggest things I learned, I saw all the pain and all the crisis that she went through. And it's like, I can do this. And sometimes I look at her example, I look at what she went through, and I can say, I can do this when I see what she had gone through. It's like she paved a way for me. Yeah.
And then you turn that into a story to help other people. So it wasn't just the end of the road. You're a cancer survivor. You turn that into a way to help other people. Tell us about the book that you wrote.
I wrote a book called Inner Shoes, Dancing in the Shadow of Cancer. And it's my cancer story, as well as the stories of 11 other women with various cancers. And I wrote the book because when I was going through cancer and chemotherapy, there was no one for me to talk to. There was no Gilda's Club. There were no support groups. And I wanted to offer something to women to give them the help I would have liked to have had when I was going through cancer and chemotherapy, and to let them know that they're not alone in their journeys. Yeah.
So I love that it's very similar in that the Life Repurposed book features numerous stories because we can learn from each other's. The difference is you wrote all of the stories. You interviewed the people and then you wrote their stories. You have some practical applications in the book too. It isn't just about stories. What are some of the tools and resources that you included?
Some of the things would be like how to deal with nausea, how to deal with fatigue, what you need to talk to your doctor about when you go to chemotherapy, what to know about shaving your head and getting a wig, So different helps like that, just to give people some encouragement.
Yeah. So the Life Repurposed book is part of a bigger vision that I have for encouraging people. And that is for people to see how God shows up in the middle of those difficult times. You've talked about how in being a caregiver, God showed up. Going through cancer, you talk about how he showed up in your book. What is your perspective on difficulty now as you look into the future? Has going through this stuff changed your outlook?
It has. I'm still working on that.
We all are works in progress, Joanie. We all are.
But I think I am able to approach the Lord better with what's going on, with maybe a little more trust than I had before, which has always been hard. Trust has been a hard issue for me. So I think I can approach the Lord more with trust. I'm also reminded of what someone once said. Oh, I've got a problem. Oh, good. That means God's going to do something. And I try to remember that, because sometimes I'm not sure he's going to do something, but he will. And I have to remember that God is the answer to whatever problems that we face. And I've gone through some of these things, and I made it through, and I will make it through again.
What would you say to somebody who is a caregiver right now? What's the heart of the message you'd want to send their way?
I think I'd want to tell them that they're not alone, that there are many people on this journey, and it feels very much alone. But you're really not alone, and that God is with them on this journey, and that he will give them the grace. If they look to him, he will give them the grace to do whatever they need to do. And maybe they need to start with just being thankful for things around them and for their lives. And when it's a caregiving and somebody that you really love and you really care about, to be thankful that God brought that person into their lives and all the blessings that person has, the ways that God has used them to bless them.
Mm-hmm. Joanie, where can somebody find you online? Where can they find your book?
My website is www.joanieshawhan.com. There's a link on my website to my book, and it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
What would you like to leave with our listeners today?
It's never too late to start a journey of gratitude, and start where you are. Don't feel like you've blown it and you can't move forward, but just start being grateful. And I listened to somebody speak, and he said, gratitude is mental health. And I had to really ponder that one. To give thanks in all things is part of good mental health. And I'm still pondering that and trying to give thanks, and I know it makes a difference.
Yeah, thank you for those words of wisdom, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Michelle.